Alright, boys, I'm back. Now, sorry if I sound kind of off. I'm still not 100% recovered. I'm probably 75% of the way there. I'm way better than I was 2 days ago, or even yesterday. Then again, part of the reason I feel like this is probably just because I took some stuff, so I don't sound as congested and everything. That and so my headache kind of goes away. But, well, I'm back. And we got a lot to talk about today on the Golden Dome. This is the first one I'm recording of 3. We have all 3 coming this week. Let's go. Last week we only had 1. This time we're hitting with 3. So, let's get it going. Now, first thing I want to talk about and this is something I talked about in a video earlier this week. It is on the 12-team playoffs. So if you've seen that video already, you kind of already know what I think about this and kind of my general thoughts. But the 12-team playoff model is supposed to go before decision makers, and it's supposed to happen 18, 20. Hold on, let me find. I'm sure it will say it at some point when it's supposed to go in front of the board. But the proposal to expand the college football playoff to 12 teams moved forward and was agreed to present, and the management committee agreed to push the concept to the 11 university presidents and chancellors who have the ultimate authority over the format at a meeting, I think it was earlier this week in Dallas. Other than that, we really haven't heard anything. That or it's next week. No, I think it was this week. One of the two. I don't exactly remember. I haven't gotten any news update. But if the board supports the proposal, it would be a green light for the commissioners to continue working on details throughout the summer, and they have to report back in September or early fall. And those in the decision-making in Chicago warned that it's not any definitive conclusions on what may happen until this fall at the complete earliest. And that's something that I think people have to remember, is this isn't a guaranteed thing. I don't think it'll be a guaranteed, set in place, almost a time and place for a while. It's the BCS agreement for the 4 teams does not expire till 25-26 season is the last season it runs through. And there's no way they get this done before the next season of college football, which is the 2021-22 season. But I'll get to that later, because it's spoken about. So sorry if I cough here and there. It's something I'm hoping that doesn't happen very much. I can't control it at this point. But according to one of the conference commissioners, Bob Bowlesby? Let me find it. Yeah, Bob Bowlesby, the Big 12 commissioner, said, quote, this is an enormous undertaking with dozens and dozens of moving parts, and it's not going to be a rapid process. It's going to be at least this fall before we have the necessary conversations and process the necessary information to make informed decisions. Now, that kind of speaks to the it won't be done anytime soon. It won't be done super soon. But you kind of have to understand with what they're doing. I mean, this was 2 years in the process of just kind of planning this out to put in front of the board and put in front of everybody. And the committee that kind of the proposal was written after 2 years of research by a subcommittee of Bowlesby, Notre Dame AD Jack Swarbrick, ICC Commissioner Greg Sankey, and Mountain West Commissioner Craig Thompson. And the meetings in Chicago were the first time the entire committee was able to discuss the details in person. Also, Swarbrick was not at the Friday meeting, but was at the Thursday meeting because he fell ill, according to CFP exclusive director Bill Hancock. And let me note, in this proposal, it does not protect conference champions, and that'll come into play in a second. It calls for the 6 highest rated conference champions, plus the 6 highest rated teams, as the 12. And there's no limits on a number of participants from a conference. Now, one sec, I'm reading into this. I'm trying to find where I kind of wanted to pick up on. Okay, here it is. So, Pac-12 Commissioner Larry Scott said they supported says the conference supports CFP expansion, but he also showed that some details are yet to be settled, as he added that all Power 5 conference champions should be guaranteed an automatic berth. In a statement later that day, Sun Belt Commissioner Keith Gill said his conference does not believe that should be the case. He said, quote, "The Sun Belt Conference supports the college football playoff expansion, including the working group's recommendations to have the 6 highest rated champions, conference champions, in the field. Playoff spots should be earned and not given under the proposed system. If you are a deserving team, you should have no concerns of being left out of the playoff." And then it goes on to say that the general sense was that the 10 FBS commissioners and Swarbrick supported the foundation of the proposal, but needed more time to gather kind of feedback from everybody and anybody. And it also goes on to talk about a couple more points, 2 or 3. But there's one I want to talk on that I'll talk about in a bit. But here's my thing, and I spoke about this in my video on this. For people who haven't watched it, or for people who have watched it, this is kind of going to be a restatement of what I've already kind of said. If you haven't watched it, this is kind of what I was thinking and saying in the video. Is I think the Sun Belt Commissioner's right. If you're good enough, you shouldn't have to worry about having an automatic spot and make it. Notre Dame, and I'm sorry for making this constant comparison to Notre Dame and not having a first round bye, but in this it works in the setting. You don't hear Notre Dame really complaining. Yes, you hear some fans. I don't know what to an extent the fans don't like it. But I think part of that is fans have to see where I really think Swarbrick was the one that kind of said this. Or other commissioners may have pushed kind of for it. And then he was like, fine, we'll do it. I think that's kind of what probably happened. But Notre Dame doesn't get a first round bye. But you don't hear that. You don't hear super much complaining. That's fine. We don't need the first round bye. Conference champions from the Power 5 conferences, if you're good enough, you shouldn't need to get that spot. You shouldn't need a guarantee in that spot. Just like Notre Dame, they don't need a guarantee to make it to the second round. They can push through. So can these conference champions. You shouldn't be afraid of the other teams if you're good enough. If you're not going to make it. I'm sorry. If a team pulls a Coastal Carolina and knocks you out because they're the better team at that point, I'm sorry, but they were the better team up to that point. Bye. Next time, try to earn your spot again, and maybe you'll earn it next time. It's I don't get why you need the spot if you're good enough. And if you're not good enough, you're not going to get the spot. Simple as that. You shouldn't be complaining. But that's kind of my spot on it. I don't want to ramble on too long about that. But later on, hold on, where is it? I need to find it. The CFP Executive Director Hancock said the playoff will not change. The CFP will not change this season or next, but that it could happen as early as 2023. And like I said earlier, that contract for the CFP 4 team runs through 26 season. So in the end, it's a thing of it's not going to get done now. It's going to get done because there's still so much to be talked about and kind of decided. But it could be done before that contract for the 4 years, or that agreement that's got it 4 years down the road, or a couple years down the road through the 25-26 season. That could come into effect anytime between then. It's all possible. Every year except this year and next year. But where was I going with that point? See, I'm not 100%. Okay. But I got it now. It may not be decided yet, but at this point, I think you also have to see how everything pans out before you can really say, yeah, we'll have it done here, and this is you can have everything planned out before you know what you're putting in place, basically. If that makes any sense. And they're going to be using 6 bowl games, and Hancock later stated, quote, "We don't know who the 6 bowls might be if the format goes through. That will be determined later. In my mind, the 6 bowls that will be a part of this will be delayed to be a part of it." That'll be interesting to see what they do with the bowl games, because they're going to use 6 bowl games. So that's... yeah, I'm not sure how that calculates out right now. But I'm trying to think how that does. I'm confusing myself, but I think it'll also depend on who are you going to want to put in those bowl spots. Because I was thinking you bring in the 2 that you use for, or the 3 that you're using currently probably for the college football playoff, and then you just pull in 3 new bowls depending on interest and everything and who wants to do it. And I think a lot of bowls are going to want to do it, if not almost all of them. So it's going to be a game of, well, it also depends on what they have in mind when they look for the bowls to use. It all depends on the mindset they use. And that I can't determine. That I can't tell you, because I don't know. But that would be interesting to see what they decide on. Alright, on to the next topic. Alright, so what are we doing next? Hmm. I'm just kind of panning through and trying to see what I have to talk about next because I've got two articles. I want to talk about those two articles next week on the Golden Dome. I will leave those for next week. And I got some talking points. Other talking points. This is a tweet from Saturday Game Day. Of the Power 5 transfers from the 1920 cycle, 26% landed at another Power 5 school. Another 26% landed at a G5 school. 47% landed in the FCS detour out of football. And they stated, the transfer portal is a great tool for players, but the grass isn't always greener on the other side. That I wanted to use this for now as statistics, but I kind of want to talk about what they said. That is interesting, that of that cycle, where players went from Power 5 teams. Now, you've got to think, though, all situations are different. Some players could have gone to smaller schools and balled out. Some could have gone to smaller schools and kind of fizzled out. Some could have gone to smaller schools, kind of played some decent ball up to now, and just... I mean, some players could have moved for a better opportunity. Well, that's what most players probably move for. Better opportunities. Or more spotlight. Or just to go to a better spot in general. And with this year, there's been a lot of transfers due to the new ruling in place that you can get one free kind of pass on the 1 year hold on eligibility where you have to sit for a year. And like Notre Dame's you've seen, 2-3 receivers go out in a matter of weeks or in a span of months. And you also saw the leave of Dylan Gibbons. There was one or two on the defense too. But I want to bring up what they said. The transfer portal is a great tool for players, but the grass isn't always greener on the other side. Now, you have to look at it from not only a perspective of where they landed, but how they performed after they landed. And what kind of happened to them after they landed. Because what if they went to a better spot and just balled out? That could be good. What if they got into a better system or a school that they just generally fit better into, or a multitude of reasons. And I think what they said can kind of go both ways, but I don't think that's necessarily the way to look at the transfer portal. I think you've got to analyze a lot of the situations, and in the end, I think it's a risk-reward deal. Decent risk, decent reward. Decent risk, decent reward, and it varies on situation. You can land in a good spot and have a great a couple of years. You could land in a bad spot and have a bad couple of years. You could land on a decent team and play decent. It's all a matter of factors and variables that differ from player to player to player. From where they're going from to where they're landing. All of that matters. But anyways, going on to my next topic. The All-American team, the preseason All-American team is now announced. Quarterback for the first team is Oklahoma's Spencer Rattler. Okay. Second team was Sam Howell. Third team was D'Eriq King. And honorable mention was Dillon Gabriel. Howell is from NC. D'Eriq King is from Miami, Florida. And Dillon Gabriel is UCF. That is a good, I will say, the ACC this year has got some loaded quarterbacks. The ACC's got some good quarterbacks. Then you've got some not so good quarterbacks, but we're not going to talk about that. At running back for the first team, you've got Tank Bigsby of Auburn and Deuce Vaughn of Kansas State. Your two second teamers are Kennedy Brooks of Oklahoma and Brian Robinson Jr. of Bama. Your two third teamers are Jarian Ely of Ole Miss and Breece Hall of Iowa State. And your honorable mentions are Maxi Borghi of Washington State and Chris Rodriguez Jr. of Kentucky. I get it. There's a lot of talent right now, but can we just note that Kyron has to be somewhat close to this? Can we? I mean, the kid did great in his freshman year. But I'm not going to talk about that too much. I'm going to try to stay as unbiased as possible when looking through this. Let's continue. First team receiver, you have Chris Olave of Ohio State. I kind of expected him to land here. Garrett Wilson of Ohio State. Okay. And Justin Ross of Clemson. I don't know if I necessarily put both these Ohio State kids up on the first team, but I can see why you would do that. Now, keep in mind this is a PFF list, so not all of this is going to make sense. Some of it's going to be a comment down below, like reasoning to why, what changes you'd make to this, because there's definitely some things that I guarantee I'm going to look at this and go, maybe I can see why, but why? And now I will say, out of these first three positions, there's not a lot of Bama on the first team, thankfully. But I guarantee that'll change because it's Bama. It's Bama. That's all I gotta say. College football fans will know. Your second teamers were Eric Gilbert of Georgia, Treylon Burks of Arkansas. Yeah. I say it two different ways. I don't care. Third teamers were Jaquari Robertson of Wake Forest and Khalil Shakir of Boise State. Your honorable mentions were Ty Freifogel of Indiana and John Mechie the third of Bama. There's your other Bama guys. Oh, I missed these guys. Another second teamer, Marvin Mims of Oklahoma. Third teamer, David Bell of Purdue and Jalen Tolbert of South Alabama. At tight end, for the first team, you've got Charlie Kolar, Iowa State. Second team, you've got Jalen Widermere. I guarantee I said that wrong. Of A&M. Isaiah Likely of Coastal Carolina. Probably said that wrong too. And Brant Kuith of Utah. Said that. Straight hard names. That was the second teamer, third teamer, and honorable mention, by the way. Now, for this, I'm just going to kind of note. I'm not going to note honorable mentions for the next couple. Because it's old. Well, yeah, well. For O-line, offensive tackle, your first teamers are Thayer Munford of Ohio State and Darian Kennard of Kentucky. Second teamers are Jamari Saylor of Georgia and Evan Neal of Bama. Third teamers are Peter Skoronski of Northwestern and Jordan McFadden of Clemson. Okay. I can see the reasoning for a lot of these guys. There's so much Ohio State on here. I don't know if they all belong on the list, but whatever. We'll roll with it. At guard, first team, Kane Madden, Notre Dame. The transfer. Okay. Definitely filling in Dylan Gibbons' spot. I like that. and Justin Schaffer of Georgia. I guarantee I said that wrong. Your second teamers are Alec Lindstrom of Boston College and Kyler Scott of Iowa. And your third teamers are Emil Ikior Jr., I guarantee I said that wrong, of Bama, and Osiris Torrance of Louisiana. Now, we're not seeing as much Bama as I thought we would, especially on a list like this. At center, you've got Tyler Linderbaum of Iowa, second teamer Grant Gibson of NC State, and third teamer Jarrett Patterson of Notre Dame. I'm surprised he's this high. I am 100% surprised he's this high, especially coming off of what happened last year, where Josh Lugg took his spot. And I think Lugg was a guard that just moved to center and said, well, I'm here now. I think he's still going to play center. I think he's our backup center now. But moving on. I'm surprised he's up there. We'll see if he can perform up to that. Haskell Garrett of Ohio State is a first-team interior D lineman, and so is Jermaine Lowell of Arizona State. Second teamers are Jalen Redmond of Oklahoma and Dante Stills of West Virginia. Third teamers are Brian Brees of Clemson and Kobe Whiteside of Missouri. On the edge, you've got Nick Bonito of Oklahoma and Kayvon Thibodeau. I guarantee I said that wrong, but we'll roll with that. Of Oregon, or as I like to call them, change colors every year. Ducks. But that wasn't the best joke. Your second teamers are Aiden Hutchinson of Michigan. Oh wow, Michigan player actually made it. And DeMarvin Leal of Texas A&M. I have to take shots at Michigan. That's I had to. It's it was a wide open shot. I had to take it. I like my shots on Michigan. As much as I don't like USC and Stanford, I won't take nearly as many shots on USC, even though I'll take a bit more than them than Stanford. I will still take shots on both those teams, but Michigan I primarily take shots on because that's what I like doing. I'm that kind of way. I will take shots on Michigan at some chances. Your third teamers are Majai Sanders of Cincinnati and Will Anderson Jr. of Bama. That does give me in mind a question, but I think that'll be a video for another day. Yeah, that will definitely be another video for another day. But linebacker. First teamers are Edfon Ulafosho. I guarantee I said that wrong completely. Out of Washington. I don't know why I saw Wisconsin. I can't read today either. And Mike Jones Jr. of LSU. Second teamers are Jojo Doman of Nebraska and Carlton Marshall of Troy. And your third teamers are Micah McFadden of Indiana and Jalen Petre of Baylor. Cornerbacks, surprisingly there's 2 LSU players on your first and second team. It isn't surprising that LSU's got a decent number of guys on here. Probably 3 or 4, 5, which is better than some teams. First teamers are Derek Stingley Jr. of LSU and Sauce Gardner of Cincinnati. Second teamers are Eli Ricks of LSU and Trevius Hodges Tomlinson of TCU. And your third teamers are Trent McDuffie of Washington and Khair Elam of Florida. It's safety. This one doesn't surprise me at all for the first teamer, but for first teamers, Kyle Hamilton, the junior. Let's go. This kid is. I expect nothing less. He should make it on here. If you don't see him as either a first or second teamer, the list is probably wrong. Actually, it is wrong. Usually. Without good reasoning. You've got to have good reasoning for not making him a first teamer, or most times a second teamer. And Brandon Joseph of Northwestern. Your second teamers are Jaquan Brisker of Penn State and Trey Sterling of Oklahoma State. And your third teamers are Jordan Battle of Bama and Braylon Trahan of Louisiana. I'm not going to talk about flex defense. Actually, I will. And I'll run through special teams quick. Flex defense, first team, Tyke Smith, Georgia. Second team, Josh Jobe, Bama. And third team, Malachi Moore, Bama. Kickers, first team is Cade York, LSU. Second team is Anders Carlson, Auburn. Third team is Will Ricard of Bama. Punter, first team, I still think Dewar should be close to that list. Not close, but within somewhat of a range. Punter, Kirk. I can't pronounce that last name. I'm going to butcher this 100%. Forgive me if I butcher this or if any of the other names I've gotten wrong. It's Pittsburgh's punter, okay? I'll go with that. I don't want to butcher this name as bad as I'm going to. And second teamer is Jake Camarda of Georgia, and third team is Ben Griffiths of USC. Kick returner, you've got Treston Ebner of Baylor as your first teamer. As your second teamer, you've got Aaron Cruikshank of Rutgers. Guarantee I butchered that. And third team, Chris Smith of Louisiana. At punt returner, first team you have Phillip Brooks, Kansas State. Second team you have Darius Davis, TCU. And third team you have Marcus Jones, Houston. Can I just say we should 100% make Lawrence Keys the third. What was he, a punt returner? No. Yeah, because Chris Tyree was our kick returner. We should make him an honorable mention just because he fumbled the ball like 20 times. I would be fine with that if you made him a honorable mention just because this dude couldn't even hold on to the ball. He literally fumbled more times, more than like half the times he touched the ball, I'm pretty sure. Every time, like, I remember for the whole time he was in the first few games, I was talking with a family member who is also a Notre Dame fan. I'm like, can we get Keys out of the game, please? I don't want him to fumble 8 more punts before the end of the game. Like, dude, please. And every time I'd be like, I'm worried about Keys fumbling this. What does he do? Fumbles. Every time. But hopefully he actually learns how to catch the ball this year. Or learned. But anyways, this has been the Golden Dome. I'm glad to have actually gotten an episode out. The other episode, this should be out depending on what order I put them out in. And what time I put them out in. I'll probably have this around 7:38. But anyways, I will see you guys hopefully in the week with some news. If not, next weekend. And it should be on time this time with another podcast.